I've been experimenting a lot this year with different prime lenses. I think it's a great way to boost creativity, but I'm still undecided on which is my go-to focal length. So I thought I'd run a few different tests today with this, my boring old standard zoom lens. Now I'm heading back there in just a second, but after looking at some of my past documentary or travel style images, I do think somewhere between 35 and 40mm in full frame terms is where I'm at. But at times, 35 is too wide and I found 40 too tight. So I figured if I could make my own prime lens, it would probably be about 37.5mm. So to see if my theory is right, I grabbed some tape, fixed off my zoom lens to that field of view and headed out for an early morning photo walk to the quaint little village of Narberth to have some fun and to see if my theory was indeed correct. And this is what happened. So Narberth is just one of those amazing little villages, it's full of charm. And on this morning, the light in this corner was absolutely spot on. Just on the left was a pub catching some lovely light. It made for quite a nice frame, but then I noticed a bit further up the road, there was this really nice S-curve with some bollards and a couple of signs that I thought worked really well. I played around with the composition a bit, and I think the final shot had more flow and balance than the first one. A little further along I spotted an old church. I'm always drawn to old decaying buildings, there's just something about them, isn't there? I managed to grab a wide shot here, then moved in closer because I wanted to check out the date plaque above the door. As I wandered further, this old yellow Skoda caught my eye. I think it sat nicely against the colourful houses, so I quickly framed up a shot before moving on. Now there's a little shop I've passed a few times down the road here. Usually it's got all kinds of tin baths and antiques out front, but I guess I was too early on this morning. Still, I quite like the scene and the perspective looking down the hill. So before we head back out there, I just want to talk about this image because I think there's quite a few bits and pieces going on here and some little things that I think are worth unpacking. So yeah, when I took this shot, one of the first things in my mind was the colour palette. And as you can see, blue kind of dominates the frame, doesn't it? But I was trying to create a bit of balance with that, not just having, one big block of blue in one spot. With this, you've got blue on the left and blue on the right, and then the eye naturally flows down the street to that blue shop in the distance, which helps, I think, tie it all together. There's also a sense of perspective as well. The lines in the road head that way, as do the gutter lines in the roofs. They all draw the eye through the frame to the blue shop at the end, which is, I guess, the payoff in the image. Now, the reason I included the signs at the top of the frame just above the houses is because without them, you'd have this big empty patch of blue sky up there. Had I moved, just a little bit to the right, that gap would kind of pull the eye to the top of the image. I think those signs help plug that space and keep the attention looking down the street where I wanted it to be. I was also careful to make sure that I didn't overlap any of the signs with the chimneys, so I was just paying attention to those small little details. Now, it's not some groundbreaking street photo or anything like that, but I do enjoy the way a few small compositional choices can make a big difference to how an image feels. So before we get back out onto the street and shoot a few more frames, I just would like to say a quick thank you to the sponsor of this week's video, which is NordVPN. Now, if you're anything like me, out on the road, traveling a lot or working away, you probably end up using public Wi-Fi pretty often. I know I do. And whether I'm working, say, from a cafe or a campsite or a hotel, there's always this little worry in the back of my mind because you never really know who might be watching your connection or trying to harvest your personal information like passwords and login details. And that's why I've been using NordVPN. It encrypts my internet traffic so I know that my personal info and the images that I'm uploading are kept safe no matter where I'm working. And beyond that, NordVPN's Threat Protection Pro adds an extra layer of security. It helps block things like malware and phishing attempts and other online threats, before they become a problem. And you can check it out at nordvpn.com/Ian Worth to learn more about how that works. Now, one of the other features I use most is the ability to switch my virtual location, and it's really useful for booking travel or accessing websites and streaming services. My family love this because they can access shows that are not available here in the UK, like unlocking different Netflix libraries from around the world. Now, there's a special link in my video description down below, nordvpn.com/Ian Worth. Clicking it helps support this channel and gives you an exclusive deal. 2 years of NordVPN plus 4 extra months. And if you're not satisfied, they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee as well, which I'm sure you'll agree is a fantastic offer. A big thanks to NordVPN for keeping us safe and supporting the channel. Right, let's get back to it. Further down the road from that last shot, I found this quaint little cottage with bunting hanging up, so I went for a straight-on shot. Simple, and I think it looks okay. Just past that, another scene caught my eye, and I used a little bit of foliage at the top of the frame to hide the dull sky and add some texture. Now, I'm always on the lookout for post boxes. I think they're such a nice feature to add, and if you caught one of my recent videos, you'll know that I've got quite a bit of a side project going on with these post boxes and telephone boxes. So I was happy to come across this one. The red car and red van helped to balance the frame as well, and I was also intrigued by the sign next to it, so I stepped in a little bit closer for a tighter frame. A bit further on, I spotted a man walking his dog. The red of the bin and the towel hanging in the pub window just worked with the colours he was wearing, so I grabbed a quick candid shot. For a while, nothing really stood out to me, but then I came across the Malt House Cafe. I thought the flowers outside really matched the painted signage on the wall, and I loved the soft light coming in from the side, so I grabbed a second shot from a different angle as well. Walking back up the road towards the old bakehouse, I got quite lucky. I managed to catch a photo of a man just as he walked through the entranceway. I didn't get any video here, but I loved how his hat and jumper matched the colour palette of the whole scene. A lucky break, really. Just nearby, I peered through a gateway and found a little hidden scene, perfect for a black and white conversion. There's also a takeaway I noticed just further up the road called Chicken and Fish Land. Quite the name, but yeah, it made for an interesting image and added something quirky to the series. Also, I like the stickers and bits and bobs hanging in the windows. Finally, I headed up the hill and reached the Farmer's Arms pub, home to a brilliant mural of Joe Allen. Born in Carmarthenshire but raised right here in Narberth, he went on to play for Swansea City, then Liverpool FC, and eventually captaining the Welsh national team. I believe the mural was painted for the 2022 World Cup. Iwal Goch translates to the Red Wall. It's a fantastic tribute to a fantastic player. Wee Joe Allen, or the Welsh Xavi, as Brendan Rodgers used to call him. Probably nicknames that he wished were never given. Then right near the end of the walk I came across an old Peugeot, the same model I used to own many years ago, though mine was red. I had to take a couple of frames of this just for nostalgia's sake, and a fitting little moment I think to wrap up the shoot. So before we talk a bit more about prime lenses and focal lengths, I just wanted to talk about why I've been doing this type of photography a lot recently and why I think it's actually helping my landscape photography compositions as well. Because although the subject matter is very different, my approach is almost identical. And I think one of the main benefits is repetition. Like all things, the more you do it, the better you get at it, don't you? And with landscapes, I tend to find myself looking more than I do actually taking shots. In fact, if I take 3 or 4 shots in a 5 to 6 hour session, I consider that to be a fairly successful shoot. Now with these photo walks, what I'm essentially doing is trying to train my eye. I'm trying to process chaotic scenes and simplify them so they make sense to me. And because there's so much to shoot in a town, there's more opportunity to practice composing photos. Plus, I actually enjoy shooting different subjects as well. So I just want to compare a few images to show you exactly what I mean. So let's take this shot here, which was one of the first images that I took this morning. Now, I took a couple of shots here, and this is the first one. And I realized that the scene had interest. And while the image, looks okay, there's a lot that I could improve on. So first off, when we look at this, the double yellow lines on the left don't quite run into the corner of the frame. Ideally, I'd have nudged the composition over slightly to make sure that line flows right into the edge. Also, the bollard in the foreground cuts straight across the road, which sort of blocks the natural flow of the eye through the scene. Now, something I often do, especially in my woodland photography, is try to rearrange tree trunks so they have separation between them. And that same idea applies here as well with the signposts. In this shot, the central signpost is okay, but if I shifted just slightly, I could have split the car's number plate in two, opened a bit more breathing room to the left, and created a clear gap between the sign and the lamppost. Another thing I felt the background could use is a little bit more interest. So I was kind of hoping for a car or something to pass through, just something to bring a bit more life or layering to that part of the frame. So yeah, lots of small things that could be improved, and all just by moving the camera position ever so slightly. So here's the second image I took of this scene, and as you can see, I've corrected most of those things. By moving just a little bit to the right and adjusting the height of the camera, I managed to get the yellow lines to run right into the corner. I also created a little bit more separation between the top of the bollard and the curb, which really helps the eye follow the road through the frame. This time I also lined up the bollard with the dotted white lines on the right, helping that S-curve flow right through the image. The signposts are a bit more evenly placed now too. The one in the middle slices cleanly through the number plate. There's a bit more space to the edge of the sign as well, and a better gap between the post and the lamppost. And just as I was lining things up, I waited patiently for a car to enter the frame as well. And I think I caught it just at the right moment. It's positioned neatly between those two telegraph poles. And it just adds enough interest to the background without pulling too much attention away. So yes, some small subtle shifts, but I think they all add up to a more balanced, thoughtful composition, and overall I think it works pretty well. Now all of these ideas from this can be put into practice in almost any genre of photography, so I think it's such a valuable exercise. Next, I just want to touch on colour. It's something I've already mentioned during the photo walk a few times, but it's such a big part of how I shoot, and I honestly bin off loads of landscape compositions purely because I don't like the colours in the frame. So for me personally, colours I include can absolutely make or break an image. And I think that's why I was really pleased with the shot of the old bakehouse. The entire colour palette just matched perfectly, and moments like that don't come around that often, do they? So I do, put this down to being in the right place at the right time, and I think it's all about timing and reacting. To capture something like that, you've got to have a split-second sense of how it's going to come together, what it will feel like, and I guess that just comes down to repetition. Again, it's not an amazing shot, but I hope you see what I mean. The more you practice, the quicker your eye becomes. You start to instinctively recognise what you like and react fast enough to frame it before it's gone. Now, something I like to do when I have people in the frame is to show a little bit of motion. It usually means they're not perfectly sharp, but I quite like that. I think it gives a sense of movement and it helps to tell the story. Now, I know this is not for everyone, but it's something I've always enjoyed. I did the same thing with the car that passed by the pub. Without that motion blur, it would have just looked like it was parked. This way, there's a little bit more energy in the scene, which again is something I really like, and I think it just helps to add story to the image. So I think using a prime definitely helps to train your eyes as well, because at least for me, I tend to move around more, and moving, I guess, helps to identify more compositions. So again, I think it's a great tool to help improve compositional techniques. Is 37.5mm the ideal focal length for me? Well, probably not. I think maybe I'll have to do a bit more experimentation, but there were times on this walk where 37.5 was just too tight, and I wish I was at 35. So maybe I might be better sticking at 35 and then cropping a little bit if required. So I really recommend just getting out there and practicing as much as possible. You know, it doesn't have to be your preferred genre. It's all about repetition, isn't it? Colour, light and composition apply to every type of photography, don't they? Even practicing still life at home can sharpen your skills and maybe even spark some new ideas. If you enjoyed this week's video, a like would really help out because it helps these videos reach more people. And I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below as well. And if you'd like to keep watching the channel, there's a video up here which I think you'll really enjoy. Anyway, take care, and I do hope to see you all again next week.